Hi there, Nick Tyrone, Neoliberal Centrist Dad, back with you again. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. This is mainly a fun video for my Irish viewers. It's about Conor McGregor, and the fact that I bring this to you on the day in which he has very predictably dropped out of the presidential race because he cannot secure the nominations, which was pretty obvious that he was never going to be able to. So in this one, I want to sort of talk about that and then talk about why he ever thought he could in the first place, what the hype around him was from the, how shall I put this, very online right, which was global or at least pan-Western as opposed to simply Irish. In fact, a lot of it, I'd love to hear your comments, but probably maybe you didn't hear that much about it in Ireland, or at least as much as you did if you, I don't know, listen to everything Elon Musk says. So anyway, Conor McGregor. The question I pose in the title is intentionally provocative, which is, would Conor McGregor have made a decent president of Ireland? And the answer is pretty obviously no. And that isn't even a political statement. That is just a statement of just obvious suitability for the job. Maybe you could take a view on certain elements of the Irish Constitution, which dictates that it's quite difficult actually to run for president. I'd have to say though, and McGregor actually made this whole thing. This was sort of we'll get into some of his policy areas in a moment when he was standing. But a big one was that he wanted some sort of referendum on changing the Irish Constitution to essentially do several things, but one of which was to make it much easier for people to run for president. The strangest thing being is that McGregor seemed to be a brilliant argument against his own platform. You know, the fact that actually the Constitution stopped people like him from running, probably a good thing. I don't know. You can argue it. I would probably say yes. I think it probably does reinforce the idea that the Irish Constitution probably has it about right, that there should be some guardrails to the process. So what was McGregor's platform? Well, this won't take very much time in the video. Essentially, it was immigrants bad, as far as I can tell. And it really wasn't nuanced at all. I have genuinely looked through all the stuff he said, all the stuff he ran on, anything he did around the presidency, and all I can say is migration is out of control, and that's why Ireland has a whole bunch of problems. This is a dubious claim at best, particularly given... So, Ireland's actually overwhelmingly white. It's it is very white. The demographics suggest that it's about 87% white. I realize someone will come at me, well, it used to be 99% white. I don't really understand why anyone cares about this, and that's surely not the issue. Surely the issue should be is what's happening with migration, and in any country are you seeing a large amount of migration that, for instance, is helping the health sector, or is helping certain sectors, or is high value migration? Some of you might take umbrage with that, but I happen to think that that's probably a good way. Liberals like to sell immigration on the idea that it adds to the economy. That can be true. And when it is true, I think it's a great argument. And I'm pro that. I'm pro migration. But I think that you have to watch out for things like asylum and stuff like that. Not that countries shouldn't do it, but just that I think liberals get caught up on this idea of like they want to make an argument that immigration is about being good for the economy. Great. And then they want to say, well, but asylum, and they wrap that up in the same argument, and it's not the same argument. If you want to make an argument for asylum, it's a very separate argument that you need to make, and I don't think liberals are doing that very effectively at the moment. And that's one of the reasons why we are where we are in the debate. Anyhow, McGregor's take on it was not subtle or indeed very interesting. I'm going to be honest with you. It was very strange that Conor McGregor caught the eye of Musk and that whole online right thing in the first place. It's kind of weird. I guess he was all there was. Like, he was, there was no one else that was even remotely kind of in or around their agenda, whatever the hell that is. I mean, genuinely, I don't know at the moment. But, you know, as much as you can say in a vibes-based way, did McGregor kind of feel like on board with the Musk-Trump, you know, flow? I guess McGregor was probably the closest that Ireland had. But it was so clear he wasn't going to make it. And all this crap, I mean, the online, I really started to pay attention to it. And you know, there was stuff about like, oh, there's these polls saying McGregor's going to get 60% of the vote and stuff. And you're thinking, why are you putting this out? Like, it'd be weird if he was a candidate and you were putting stuff like that out, because actually it's reasonably easy to debunk that kind of stuff. You know, if you don't have a poll that says he's on 60% and it's a genuine poll, I don't mean something that Musk put on his Twitter feed or something for like people around the world to say, do you think Conor McGregor should be president? I'm not saying Musk did that. I just genuinely have no idea where the 60% number came from. I tried everywhere to look because this was a thing that everybody was putting out. This was a very online right thing. Conor McGregor has 60%. He's polling 60% in Ireland in terms of becoming the president. And I couldn't track that down. If someone wants to tell me where that number comes from, I'd love to hear it in the comments, but I could not find it in my research. It just seems like a completely bullshit figure that was pulled out of someone's ass. That's as far as I can tell. Anyway, Conor McGregor. What does Conor McGregor mean to me? Not very much. I mean, he's the ultimate fighting champion and all that. None of that is terribly interesting to me. No problem if it is to you. We're all welcome to our own... sorry, I'm playing with my hair because it's really... I've got hair problems today. Anyway, it doesn't matter. McGregor, basically... whenever I think of Conor McGregor, the first thing I think of, actually, is a Shane Gillis routine. So Shane Gillis has this thing about how... when he was traveling in Britain and Australia, about how there's so much fewer black people than in America, and how this is a bad thing for many reasons, but one of which is that you get this certain type of white guy who thinks he's the coolest guy in the world because there are no black guys around. That's the essence of Gillis's routine. Anyway, and then the person he uses to exemplify this idea is Conor McGregor. You know, he says something like, well, you just have these guys like Conor McGregor going around going, meh. And it did make me laugh because that is kind of, you know, there is that certain thing, isn't there, of that kind of guy who's kind of been put on a pedestal. And then a lot of it is, okay, he was cool because he was tough. And then you kind of have the left-wing thing, which doesn't really like tough guys, and that's a whole other issue for the left. And so these guys drift to the right, where if they say the right things and they do the right things, then they're lauded and they're put on a pedestal, and the fact that they're already an ultimate fighting champion really helps. So it's like, oh, hey, this guy's tough, and he agrees with all our right-wing weirdness. Hey, brilliant. And it feels like McGregor kind of fell into that path. I mean, I'm sure he probably was on Rogan or something at some point. Like, all the pieces, I'm sure, came together. But it is sort of reminiscent of how a lot of that politics is sort of... What that type of politics likes to do is complain about how everyone's out of touch with reality, right? How the left are out of touch with reality. And a lot of times when they make points about the left being out of touch with reality, they are correct. They use examples of the left being out of touch with reality that are correct. That doesn't mean they are in touch with reality. I think this is the thing that we have to get to, right? I actually want to do a whole series of videos on this coming up. I think there's so much stuff that I will watch a great video or read a great article or something online that's amazing, that really exemplifies it exemplifies the argument, really, that, you know, the right have lost their way and it's insane, and look at what Trump's doing, and what do these guys even stand for anymore, and how everybody's, you know, that whole vortex has been going down a kind of plug hole of reality, and they're out of touch, everything. And of course, that's just one side of it, and they're not talking about the left losing complete, you know, touch with reality. And so that you get that from the left, and then you get from the right this just, oh, hey, look at these guys, and you take the worst of what's going on the left, and you say, hey, these guys have lost total touch with reality. I think the thing I'm worried about, and Conor McGregor exemplifies for Shane Gillis, the uncool white guy trying to be cool. For me, probably, McGregor exemplifies how everybody's losing touch. an online thing, or it's something to do with internet culture, or how we relate to each other now, or how everybody has access to the internet, which should make everybody smarter, but actually it just seems that everybody is now has greater access to loads of misinformation or disinformation. And you end up with something like Conor McGregor is going to be the next Irish president when it's very clear he's never going to be able to run. And that sort of doesn't matter, and everybody can just move on. And everybody who said he had 60% of the vote and he was going to be the next Irish president can now they can just drop that and move on. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all, because it's like now some new thing. And again, you'd think that, well, actually, now that we have the internet and everybody has the receipts, right, for this, like you know, the fact that Musk and others put this online, it's kind of there forever, isn't it? And yet that doesn't matter. It's weird. It's weird that it doesn't matter, that no one cares, and that this constant kind of setting up of a reality that never quite comes off. It's like someone predicting the end of the world and being constantly wrong, and it's all there on the internet for people to see, and yet somehow they are able to continue making these predictions and people continue to buy into them. It's the strangest thing about our modern age is, yeah, the people saying that McGregor is going to be the next prime minister, sorry, not prime minister, president. The fact that they've been proven horribly wrong just won't matter. No one's going to comment on it. So therefore, the next time they want to say some outrageous, weird thing that has no basis in reality, they'll just say it. Because what's the problem? If you say Conor McGregor is going to become the next president, and then he does, somehow, then you are able to say that, A, you predicted it, and you're a genius, and B, hey, maybe you even helped it along. Maybe you were part of the process, and that's why this stuff's important. And actually talking about things like Conor McGregor becoming president of Ireland, even if you're in America or France or wherever, is important, because actually what we're doing is we're laying the building blocks to a whole new world that's coming about, and we're being part of it, and we're part of something big, and it's happening, and it's amazing. And then if it doesn't happen, and it falls apart like it has, very predictably, then you can just never talk about it ever again. And it doesn't matter, and no one cares. And everybody just moves on to the next bullshit thing, whatever it is this week. And that's the world we live in. So that's really what McGregor, represents to me, is he's really come to represent that whole thing. Just that whole, sort of false reality that people are living in now. And how do you get out of it? I don't know. I mean, for Ireland, it sort of doesn't matter. He very predictably failed, and the presidential race will go on, and it will go on without Conor McGregor, as anybody who knew literally anything about Irish politics, and I do mean literally anything at all, could have told you. And yet, we had to have this whole thing. There was a whole group of people out there, right? Particularly in America, right? And the only thing that they knew about Irish politics was, oh, apparently Conor McGregor is going to be the next president. That is like the one thing that they all thought, because that was the only thing they heard, because that was the thing that was being amplified massively through these big accounts and big networks in America. Very, very strange. Very, very odd. Anyway, I'm glad that the penny has dropped and McGregor has dropped out, because the whole thing was rather silly. And, well, we are where we are. I don't know. I thought this video would be more fun than it was. I thought I was going to make more fun of McGregor, but then it somehow turned serious. It's a very serious time, isn't it? Very serious time. It's all very weird and depressing and odd. I mean, in Britain, it's very, very odd, because we essentially have a Labour government that is just very visibly failing. It's very visibly falling apart, really. And you can see it from people within the Labour Party plotting to get rid of Starmer and replace him with whoever. Burnham seems to be the flavour of the week, even though he'd have to get into Parliament, and that would be a challenge. But that's the new thing. And then you have the Tories just absolutely nowhere. They're invisible. And you have the Greens doing their weird sort of populist thing. I mean, I know I'm not a Greens person. I'm sorry. I'm not. And it's not because I'm not an environmentalist. I am. In fact, that's why I don't like the Greens in Britain, because they actually never talk about the environment and don't ever seem to actually care about it at all, what they seem to be trying to do is become a sort of left-wing agitator populist party, which is weird to me and I don't like it. But anyway, now I'm under British politics and I shouldn't have started there. I'm Nick Tyrone, neoliberal centrist dad. I hope you got some enjoyment out of this, and leave your comments. What did you think about the Conor McGregor run to be president? People in Ireland, was there a real disconnect between what you were seeing in Irish media and what you were seeing, say, online with people like Musk and stuff like that? I assume that the Irish media, at least, and to be fair, I mean, the Irish media that I have seen was much more rational and down to earth when discussing the possibility of Conor McGregor being president of Ireland. But maybe there was other stuff that I just don't see that was mad and weird. Let me know. I will be back at you next time when I have something to say. As I say, I really want to say something about this kind of unreality that we are living in, and so that's coming together. But in the meantime, if I suddenly want to make fun of Conor McGregor again, maybe I'll come at you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you got this far into the video, please subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps. Please like the video. Please leave a comment if you can. And like I say, I'll be back at you next time. Thanks, guys. Cheers.